I think of myself as a perpetual student, and that it's like this is not something that you suddenly have down. This is something that requires constant experimentation and learning, and the only fast way to do it is to hear what everybody else is doing and think, "Okay, let me take that and put it in the context of my challenges." And so, yeah, you have to be curious, and if you're curious and adaptable, you're a penguin.
Oh, yes, this is the Hardcore Marketing Show. I'm Casey Cheshire, your host for this epic journey. Today's show is sponsored by Ringmaster, on a mission to launch B2B podcasts that create relationships, generate revenue, and drive growth. Ringmasterlive.com. Bam. All right, we are live. The train has left the station. The scary roller coaster train. This is about to get wild. I hope you're all caffeinated. I hope you're all hydrated. You got to bring your A game for this conversation today, because my guest is an absolute badass. And I know I say that a lot, but I really mean it. He is absolutely crazy. I got to tell you about him. Well, who is he, Casey? Who is he? Award-winning marketing leader, thought leader, entrepreneur, author, and flocking awesome CMO coach. That's right. Recognized as one of the 50 marketing thought leaders over 50. Okay, that makes me feel young. I like it. This is the real stuff, right? Built a community of nearly 450 plus members, which we're going to talk about. And guess what? It's a marketing community, so you want to listen up. Podcast host of the Renegade Marketers Unite show, author of Renegade Marketing, Penguin-In-Chief at CMO Huddles, Drew Neisser. Welcome to the show, sir.
Oh my God, thank you so much. I'm out of breath just hearing my description.
I am too. You're busy. Dang.
Indeed, I am. Yes. Is there another way?
There is not another way. We're the same. Here, let me pass you this thing, because I want you to smash something real quick. Hold on, it's heavy.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay, here you go.
I got it. I'm grabbing it, baby.
Okay, take
I got
Joe's
it.
hammer. All right, Drew, smash for me some kind of marketing myth, bogus strategy, misconception. Set the record straight once and for all.
All right. Well, this is a biggie, so I think I need a bigger hammer. So the shortest path to revenue growth and CMO longevity is focusing on prospective customers. That's the myth.
So the myth is we got to focus on those folks.
Right. That we're going to, if we put all our energy as a CMO into net new revenue and prospective customers, that we're going to keep our job and we're going to drive revenue, that formula keeps failing over and over again.
What's happening? What's going on here? I guess it's tempting to focus on the new rev, right?
Of course. I mean, in theory, every company wants to grow, and in theory, every company will grow by bringing on new customers. But there's sort of and there's a lot of pressure. Don't get me wrong. If you work for a company at a PE firm, they are looking at every single spreadsheet, every single number, and they're saying net new, net new, net new. What's your cost per acquisition? What's your, and it's relentless. But as you probably heard on this show and in many other places, revenue growth is not a strategy or a differentiator. So what happens is, when you're focused relentlessly on revenue growth and everybody in the organization feels that, you end up, worst case scenario, famous case history, Enron, where people were so focused on driving revenue that they lied about the numbers. You build a culture that is not about employees, customers, and prospects. You build a culture of just money, 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 money. Grab that thing, get the revenue at any cost. And it's such a problem. And so the answer, you ready for the answer?
Yes.
Okay. We're going to actually turn your targeting upside down. If you think about it right now, if you asked most CMOs, they will say prospects, customers, employees are their priorities. In my book and in my experience and all the interviews that I've done, you need to turn this upside down. Your first target is employees, your second target is customers, and then your third target is prospects. But if you did everything right in the first two stages, your prospects will come.
Oh man, I can already feel the tension in the room, because we're like, wait, it's hard enough with prospects, employees. How is that gonna I'm gonna get fired, Bill. Like, what's going on, man? What's going on?
Yeah. So there's several simple truths that are underlie this thing, which is if your employees don't believe in what you're selling, no one will. But if they do, watch out, world. I mean, employees are the most effective and most underemployed evangelists. I mean, they are, and we know it. And when you see a company that has actually unleashed their employees and really spent time with them, it's unbelievable. And I'm happy to share some cases that I talk about in my book. Yeah, and so an insurance broker out of Chicago called Assurance, pretty bland name. Their fundamental strategy was happy employees, happy customers. Everything was built about around what do we have to do to help our employees feel good about the fact that they're basically selling insurance, which is pretty as generic as, I mean, other than paper, which is my next case history. And they built this company up to, I think, a half a billion in revenue, and it ultimately sold it to a much larger company, all on the quirkiness. And they had quirky employees, and they celebrated the quirky employees on the landing page of the website. Think of a B2B company, try to find one now, where, first of all, it's hard to find a B2B company that actually shows a human on the website. Then, but think about it, where are the employees? You could go to a B2B website and you got to search and you finally look at our team and it's like 5 people on the executive committee and a couple of the investors. Where are the employees? They're not there. So a simple thing that I prescribe to any CMO that I coach that's starting, the first thing, literally in the first week you walk in the door, you want to tell the employees that they matter to you, they matter to marketing, that they are part of the pro. And you do a survey. Zivi, I outlined the survey in the book. I get the whole survey. Boom.
Dude, I'm excited.
Right?
Renegade Marketing. Go get it. Amazon. Clickety
But
click.
I'll give anybody and your listeners, I'm happy to send them the survey. They don't need to buy the book. I'm happy to do that. So there's so many things that you want to know. Do they trust management? Do they have ideas that no one is listening to?
Drew, I don't know if I want to send the survey out. This sounds scary.
It is scary. And what you find out is they don't trust management. They don't believe in the product. You find out a lot of things in that, but you also find some good things too. But where you have a couple of it, there's something called a ENPS, which is the likelihood of an employee to recommend the brand to a friend as a place to work. And that is a really interesting question. If you want your friends to work there, then you believe in the company and you believe in what's going to happen. They believe in the brand. And this is more important than ever because of generative AI. Because this is the biggest workforce change since the Industrial Revolution.
Oh, I see what you're saying because I was thinking about changing marketing, but you're right. It's changing the workforce.
Right. I mean, it's right now in, is Gen AI going to cost people jobs? Absolutely. If there's any doubt about that, please, let's just let's take your hammer on that one. It will cost jobs, but not for the people who know how to use the tools. Now, interesting thing. A lot of companies, then this was 2024. I wrote about this recently. 2024 was, and this was CMOs and they were guilty. They said, hey, go play. Wrong. That's like telling kids, hey, go play with scissors. They're probably going to have a bad experience. It's not going to work out very well. They're going to try it. They're going to write something. And I've heard some people on your show back from a year ago. Oh, I tried to write something on ChatGPT. It was lousy. Forget it. Don't bother. Don't use it for copy because it's bad.
You went to the archives, man. You really opened that up.
I went there. I went there because I wanted to hear that story again. So what's happening now, it's 2025, is that you're training your workforce. You're helping them understand that this is the most powerful tools they've ever put in their hands. It's like the way robotics started to help people in factories lift things they couldn't before. That's what's happened. We're creating superhumans. And so you've got a very nervous workforce. You've got a new marketer coming in. The new marketer comes in and says, hey, I really care about what you think. And I'm going to help train you for the future. Man, how about that? That sounds pretty positive, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So and I'm really excited about this. I've seen some transformation happening at some companies where the CMOs were quick to embrace it, but not in the ways that you think. We can talk about that. I want to stay on employees for a second because I want to give you another example or two.
Please, yeah.
Okay. So one of my favorite, I happened to work when I had the agency and Renegade Marketing was an agency. We worked with a company called Case Paper, and I love this company. It's family owned. It's 3 generations. The grandson is now the president of the company. He was the CMO, and we worked together. And we sort of found out Case Paper. What do? They actually sell paper, like like The Office,
Like Dunder Mifflin, let's go.
like Dunder Mifflin. They sell paper to printers and to companies and so for packaging and other things, right?
Somebody's got to do it.
Somebody's got to do it. They've been doing it for now, I think, almost 85 years. And their true secret sauce is that they actually work with their customers. Their average relationship is like 15 years. I mean, and their employees are really, really important. So we created, and they had a sense of humor, which, by the way, just differentiates them right away. Even their want ads are funny, and it's really quite it's such a fun brand. But we unleashed their humor, and we unleashed the funness of the brand with a simple statement: on the case. Case Paper is on the case. Then they spent 6 months not launching it to the world, launching it to employees. And they said to employees, hey, employees, be reliable, responsible, and resourceful. Meaning, don't just take an order, add value in every call so that you are on the case. So employees are on the case. And then the next step was to go to customers and say, how are you on the case for your customers? And so they did employee awards, they did employee training, then they did customer training and customer awards and all sorts of good things that helped them continue to grow despite the fact that the industry was safe. And it's just a lovely company. And you walk around and it's like the next person is nicer than the first one. But they think about their employees every day.
Wow. Wow. Does that fall under the purview of the CMO?
Well, that's the thing. That's why this is such a renegade marketing notion is if the thing is that HR doesn't think about employees the way marketing thinks about employees. HR thinks about employees as risk and as people that we have to pay. So, and that's great. They've got to manage the risk. They've got to deal with all that paperwork. Marketers are the ones who recognize this is an underutilized sales force. This is you think about it on LinkedIn, people are, I think, 20 times more likely to engage. It's between 14 to 20. Pardon me, don't quote me exactly on this, to engage with an individual than they are a company. Right? We know that. Think about it. Think about the people that you don't engage with companies, almost never. So here you are, you have 1,000 employees and 10 of them are on LinkedIn and active. Think about that. That's a problem. So the only person in the organization who can sense that and help drive that and help empower employees to feel comfortable to do that is the CMO. So, if they don't control internal comms, they got to have a dotted line to it. They have to. By the way, the HR person mainly doesn't want to do that. And if there is a battle, and I've seen that happen, if there is a battle between the CMO and the CHRO, they got to work it out because they're codependent. So it is in my mind, and we talk a lot about in CMO huddles about this notion of CMO plus. That's a great plus. Internal comms, add that to the list.
Internal comms, yeah.
Internal comms. And I will tell you, when I look at all the interviews, all 600 plus of the CMOs that I've interviewed, the one CMO who had the longest longevity, maybe that's redundant, Kathy Buttonbell, 22 years at Emerson. 22 years at this giant company. And it was various conglomerates over the time. Two things. She focused on internal comms throughout those 22 years. And it was the same CEO. And by the way, those two things matter because she became the voice of the CEO to the employees. She wrote all his speeches internally. She managed all the internal comms. And, you want to stay a long time at a company? Start there. Build an army of supporters behind you that are for marketing, believe in marketing, believe that they are kind of part of this. Because marketing is like the most fun, or could have been, the most fun? It's not. A lot of the fun of marketing has been sucked out, but if you think about it and you put it back into your brand, you're giving your employees a gift.
Mm. What is that natural temptation to go anti-fun in the B2B world?
I don't know. And it's incredible because it happens almost overnight. And I've seen it happen where successful brands had a sense of humor and then they get a certain threshold and they go, "Oh, okay, we got to be serious." It's just, it's not true. People still do business with people they like. It's always true. And yes, look, price matters and other things matter, but the difference between generic price and premium price is trust. Trust is an intangible. Intangibles are built through relationships.
Wow. I think that's. I mean, I even feel that tendency sometimes, right? Maybe I go back and forth between, oh, I'm the serious guy, then, oh, it's Casey, he's crazy, right? Because I think part of me wants to say, if they want to do this big deal, they want to do it with someone who's serious.
Yeah, yeah.
What is that?
Well, so look, I'm not a psychologist, but I can tell you
No, no, no. I need free counseling right now, Drew. Let's
they
go.
wanna do yes, all right, on the couch. So tell me why, what's the problem
Yeah,
with you and your mother?
right.
So they want trust is an interesting thing because, yeah, if you're a complete joker, obviously they're not gonna trust you. But if you have a sense of humor, and again, there's a difference between taking yourself seriously and taking the work and the promises that you make seriously. If you make a commitment to, like, in the form of a promise, like Case Paper says, we're on the case. And if somebody calls them up and they don't respond in 2 weeks, they've broken that promise, right? You have to take that seriously. The promises that you make to the marketplace really matter. And as a brand, you fail and the more you fail, the lower the value of the brand. That doesn't mean you can't do it like service with a smile, right? You can do that. I mean, in the history of Southwest Airlines, which grew dramatically under Herb Kelleher, the founder, one of his secrets was that he hired cheerleaders as flight attendants. Why? Because they're just happy, optimistic people who like to be with people. You know, hire cheerleaders, hire people who are optimists.
Man, there's nothing worse than a cranky flight attendant, Like, I get it. I'd be cranky too, but, when they're happy, it's hard not to, when they're welcoming you on the plane and they're just happy and bubbly at 5:20 AM.
I know. It's amazing. Thank you for that. Thank you for your smile. And I'm not saying that you have to fill your entire organization with cheerleaders, but, you gotta minimize the Eeyores. You need a few of those because you do, but not many, because Eeyores see all the reasons why you can't do something, and the optimists see all the reasons why you can. And the optimist will win 9 out of 10 times.
Optimists are on the menu. Let's go.
Yeah.
So all of this wrapped around really taking care of the team and giving them the ability to enjoy what they do and share that and share the company with others. And this is the tip of the spear. So we're flipping everything.
We're flipping everything. Now, I'm not saying you stop there, but you have to build that foundation. And so one of the biggest mistakes that I see the new CMOs do in the first 6 months, they say everything that the old CMO did was wrong. We have to change the brand, right? And by changing the brand, they usually mean the website, the logo, the call to action, the colors. We used to be blue. Everybody's blue. So now we're red.
Dude, I hate that. It's the worst move.
And, I call it, the new paint on an old barn. Nothing changed. Now, if there is something substantive, you just acquired 3 companies and you're moving from a single product or service to a platform, then there's a new promise that you can make to the marketplace. And then it makes sense to rebrand. If you retrain the employees to truly understand what it is that you're offering. And so we did a study before I finished the book talking about how important is employee training before a brand relaunch. Like 70% of the days, really, really important. Then we said, how much time do you allow for that? And the average was like 3 to 4 weeks.
Yeah, 30-minute meeting.
Yeah, exactly. And then And the problem with that is it's not real. It's not substantive. So by comparison, I shared a case history on Aetna when they finally rebranded. This was probably 4 years ago. They spent 6 months retraining employees, and I can give you a specific example, which really brings it to life. It used to be you would call the insurance company and you would say, "Hey, I'm going in for knee surgery," and they'd say, "Okay, well, that's approved or not approved. Off you go." They trained them so that, "Oh, you're going in for knee surgery. Well, usually after knee surgery, people need physical therapy. Would you like to know what your options are?" Boom. Because that was consistent with the new promise, which was under this notion of the office of the customer and that they were really going to take care of. But you can't deliver on that promise if you don't really change the way you are servicing your customers. So employees lead to a better promise, which you can take to your customers. And when your customers are on board, everything's good. When your customer's on board, it's really good. So we hear about a lot. Here's a good example for you. One of the most effective ways of closing deals today in this very hard cycle is you bring 10 prospects and two customers together for a really wonderful meal with a famous chef, and you have this great evening. You don't let anybody from the organization talk, but you let two customers talk. Those customers will sell three people in that room. They were considering buying anyway. Not as better, they will sell it better than anybody in your organization. So we went from employees to customers who are being delivered, who every day feel the benefit of your promise. They're ready to evangelize on your behalf because you are over delivering. Now your close rates improve, your deal cycles improve, your satisfaction improves. Because you're going in as a trusted commodity, right? Because we're just trying to take risk off the table. That's what marketing does. We put a proposition out there, a promise, and if we do our jobs well enough, the prospect goes, "Yeah, you know what? I need that. That is my problem." And assuming you've removed all the friction from the buying process because you've listened to what your customers had to say, and they say, "I don't like it when you don't include service in your offering." Okay, we'll include service in your offering. So the pieces fall together, but you got to get your mind around the fact that, whoa, employees first, customer second, prospect third.
What are three things companies can like put in place? Can we get that specific for the customers?
Oh, for customers,
I'm sorry, not, employees first.
employees, sure. Okay, so we've done the survey, right? And we find out what our strengths and weaknesses, our values, and so forth. Are they buying the promise that we're offering? And oftentimes, you find a place where there's something that needs fixing. So you have to, there's some remedial work that you need to do to rebuild. Like they just hate your certain policies that you have, or they don't feel that they're being listened to, or they don't have forums, or they're not, they have ideas. So you have to sort of address and get yourself to a baseline where they're pretty happy. So that's part one. And look, and again, it really, part of this is saying, we believe in you. We know that we are only as good as every employee in the room. Period. That's it, right? So then we can talk about, all right, all sorts of different ways of getting employees to work better together. So I'll give an example, and this is actually an example of a CMO who drove this. So this was Jeff Perkins.
I know Jeff. Jeff's great.
Yeah. So when he developed a innovation day or week where employees were mixed up. You had an engineer and a marketer and so forth, and put on teams, and they had a certain period of time to come up with an idea that would have a significant impact on the business. And they had to present it to the executive committee. And you had accomplished so many things in the sense that you got to work with people you never got to work with. It's really fun exercise. And some of the things were freaking brilliant and they were able to implement them, which helped to drive growth. So you have all this talent and it's really hard right now because of, remote work that's siloed and just head down up. There's my email. There's my there. I got it. That are task focused as opposed to mission focused. And so programs like that, anything that you do in the area of recognition, and this is tricky because you can, if you do employee of the month, for example, you just breed out, uh, you breed jealousy. So you have to be careful about that and how you do it. Um, Another big area is everybody celebrates success. Companies that are truly innovative celebrate failure because, and that's whole thing about failing fast. I hate that term because I think, the object is not to fail fast. The object is to succeed fast. However, there are times when you try something and at that moment, it may not have even been a bad idea. It could have just been badly timed, or maybe it was badly executed. So the key is, oh, that sucked. You're fired. No, the key is thinking about what do we learn? And could we fix this? And should we try it again, doing it a different way? And this is again where employees can unleash innovation if you give them the opportunity. And that's again, that's the fun part of marketing. That's the fun part of being in business is that you get to do something interesting.
Man. Okay, so yeah, I love it. I mean, especially if you've got the right team, just unleash them. We're just holding them back. So how do we unleash the customers?
Okay, so you made a point about the right team, and this is key. I mean, you have to, as a CMO, you are only good as your direct reports. And I'll go in and I'll say, oh my God, you have 8 direct reports, fix that, 6 max. And you got to believe that you can go on vacation for 3 weeks and the company will still run without you. That's how good your team, your direct reports need to be. So yes, we've got the right team. Now, how do we unleash customers? And there are a lot of good examples out there of, so 2 things that I always recommend to new CMOs is one, if you don't have a customer advisory board, create one and run it. If you don't run it, set the agenda for it. That's part one. Part two is create an executive ownership program where, not this is, and that's the wrong name, it's a different name, I'm just blanking on it, where executive sponsor program, where every executive in the C-suite, including the CMO, owns a couple of your largest customers. And the customer knows that, and that's part of the presentation during the pitch process. So I'm the CMO and I own this $1 million company, and that CEO of that other company can call me if there's an issue. And so you've done 2 things. And I'll tell you and we joke about this a lot because I say it a lot in CMO huddles. The most powerful thing a CMO can ever say, particularly when talking to a board, is, hey, I was talking to a customer the other day. And it's like, boom, mic drop. Everybody turns, puts their ear in and they say, what'd they say? I mean, it's anecdata. It feels like that's just one data point, but it's so powerful. So CMOs need to figure out how they can have constant contact with customers.
AKA a podcast, right? Come on.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Come talk to me. And that's a great example of how do we celebrate. So with customers, you have sort of 2 things. You're cultivating and you're celebrating. So, cultivating is making sure that they actually are using your product to its fullest. You got to know that. And that's often not the case, particularly in the software world. Think about it. How many apps do you use all the things or whatever software you have? Do you use all the? No, it's about 5%, 20%. So you got to cultivate so they're using the product as fully as possible. If they're not, take preemptive action. Don't just sit there. And you got to figure out ways to celebrate them. Everyone likes recognition. Everyone. It's a part of the key of CMO huddles is we figured out a bunch of ways to celebrate our members. And they feel really good about it, as they should, because they don't get celebrated because they're getting beaten up all the time. And think about it this way. your customer is like, maybe they're in procurement, or maybe they're a business leader, or a line of business leader, or they're more junior. You think they're getting celebrated by anybody else? Maybe. So that goes a long way. Yeah, get them on your podcast, help them get them on other podcasts, get them speaking engagements, get them out there. And man, every time they talk and get better at it, and if they're not good at it, offer them media training.
Talk to me about the customer advisory board because you really got my attention. Sometimes my wife will um, ding me for this because she'll say a great idea and then seven other people will, and eventually I hear it enough and I go, "That's a brilliant idea." So customer advisory board, I how do we keep it from just like a bunch of people in a room going like, "Why am I here?"
Yeah, no, so first of all, it's all about initially about the selection process. It's understanding and I have a whole document I can share with your listeners if they just want to email support@cmohuddles.com, and we'll send them things that we put together on customer advisory boards. Uh, the the key is these people want to do it because they believe in your product. They're active users, and it's making a difference in their work life or personal life, right? It's making their lives easier. So these are not people who, now you can have a couple detractors in there. That's not a bad idea. You don't want everybody who's just, hey, it's the greatest thing ever. You are looking for a consistent group of people from a sense of title. Like, you would want to bring a group of CMOs because part of the value to them is the network that you're helping them to build. Part of the value to you is that you trust these people. If you show them your roadmap, here's where we're going, here's what we're thinking about, here's the things that we're going to do for our customer, and they give you advice, you listen, right? If you're not prepared to listen, don't bother. But there are lots of things. And, I'm extremely fortunate. We have an advisory board for CMO Huddles. We've got 8 CMOs who are active members of our community. We meet quarterly. Um, and what's interesting is usually the first 15 minutes is one of them raises an issue that says, hey, I'm having an issue right now. And people help each other solve it. Brilliant. Because that's what you've done. You brought people together, right? To help them solve their own problems. You have to build in networking time for them. You have to build in time for them to share. So, and there's certain size things that you want to do. They work better in person. And so I've seen combinations. Is it 3 or 4 times a year? Is it once a year in person? Um, and, but you've got to be prepared to listen, and you got to have you really do have to have an agenda. You got to, ideally, you're presenting something to them in advance that they can read and think about. So they're coming with formed thoughts, and they're ready. And, there's a value to them, and you just have to figure out what is that value. Is the value the recognition that they get to say they were on the advisory board? Sometimes that's it, right? Because they're a member of an advisory board. A lot of your customers want to be on boards of some way or another. This is a stepping stone to that. That's one. So you need to understand why they're there, or create a reason for them to be there. And some people, you could pay them. You don't have to. It depends on the scenario. And it's invaluable.
It occurred to me with all the networking time, it's like a micro community, and this is like a perfect cue in to you are the community czar, and CMO Huddles is absolutely the reason we got connected is because I kept hearing about it, and then I had to reach out to you and say, hey, everyone's talking about CMO Huddles. You seem to be the guy I need to talk to. So, so this is a perfect, like the customer advisory board is like a micro community. Maybe we zoom out a little bit and talk community itself.
You got it. Happy to. I love it. I consider myself an extremely lucky individual in that I get to sit in on and orchestrate conversations between CMOs every single week. And I get to talk to CMOs almost every single day. It's a hard job. There's no doubt about it. And there's nothing simple about the job. There is a complete mismatch between CEO, CMO expectations And it's that stems from the fact that most CEOs, like less than 20% ever spend any time in marketing. So there's a perception the CMOs are miracle workers and they can come in 5 minutes and wave their wands. It's a hard job. And it's funny because, and I heard this in the advisory board, we had a meeting this week, was sometimes they just want to come in and hear that someone else has the same problem. And that's a sense of relief. It's not just me. I'm not a failure. Because, look, imposter syndrome and all that. And you get to a certain place in your career and you say, am I any good at this? And everybody feels that. So having a community where it's safe, and this is really important. Like we have small group conversations. This is not, we had our first conference of the super huddle, if you will, in November of 2024. It was amazing. And we had 100 plus folks there, and it was great to be physically together. But in general, our peer huddles are 10 to 12 CMOs in a very safe environment where they get to share the things that are working, the things that aren't, the issues that they're having, with some guidance, in the sense that we usually pick a topic each month. But sometimes the conversation goes where it goes. So the CMO huddles thing, if I can, and I'm there's the peer aspect, right? All the good things that happen with bringing them together, helping them understand. Like we've had 6 generative AI sessions in the last 3 months. I mean, just because that's such a transformative moment for CMOs, and everybody's trying to figure out, okay, what is the path to success here? And then we bring in experts, best-selling authors every month, and some amazing folks that help them think about the chief and chief marketing officer, leadership things. And then we bring in other experts that are tactical experts, whether it's ABM or it's, just you name a thing that CMOs need to think about. We bring in folks for that. That's all this world of what they, of how to make better decisions faster and helping them with that. The second part of it, so we call that the peers area. The second part of what we deliver is PR. And that's unique to CMO huddles. And goes back to recognition, helping them build their personal brand. And we know this is important because we also support CMOs in transition. And CMOs in transition have 2 issues right away that they always share, which is, I wish I'd spent more time building my personal brand, and I wish I spent more time building my network. Well, you can't join CMO huddles and not have both of those 2 things happen.
You build it.
Build it. And then there's penguins.
Tell me.
Ha! Okay. That's the third tier, if you will. 3. Is that a tier? Is that a stool?
There's a penguin tier. There's literally a penguin tier.
No, there isn't a penguin tier. But so
there should be
penguins, as in penguins. Turns out a group of penguins is called a huddle. So that was number 1.
Oh, snap.
There it is, right?
You know what? We owe ourselves a pat on the back. That's brilliant, sir.
So, I discovered that, I think year 2 of CMO, we founded in 2020. I was in the Galapagos. I got to swim with penguins. It was really cool. We came back we were on the ship after that particular day. And the guy, our guide, said, anybody know what a group of penguins is? And somebody shouted, a huddle. And they go, you're right. And I literally got on the phone and texted an art director who had designed the logo. And I said, okay, find a way to get the penguins onto our logo.
Yeah. Oh, so you had it first and then you found out that
we didn't have penguins as our mascot until I had gone to the Galapagos and heard them. So and then I said, all right, you know what? Everybody else is animal appropriators. Let me see what we can do here. We got in contact with the Global Penguin Society, and episode 400 of CMO Huddles actually was featured the founder of the Global Penguin Society. It turns out there are so many things that penguins and CMOs have in common that it was just brilliant. And we give 1% of our revenue to the Global Penguin Society.
I love that.
And we have penguin stress balls because it's a stressful job.
When in doubt, just squeeze a penguin.
That's it. That is it. There's no place like home. Yeah.
Well, dude, my next question is like, who are you? Who are you? How do you know all these things? Take me back in time, right? L Little you, right? Little Drew running around, like a
Uh,
penguin. Did you know you're gonna be, the penguin, the chief penguin?
gosh. So I'll try to connect the dots in real quick. It's funny because little me in high school, I graduated from high school at 5'6". I'm now 6 feet tall. I was the youngest of 3 boys. I was the youngest of 3 boys. My older brothers are both very, very smart, and I was short. So you can imagine little Drew, over here. So that kind of informed a lot of, I felt the need to be recognized in both good and bad. Very active in college in everything but studying. Just ran a was it active in the film society, was a photographer, was a videographer, and I knew I was gonna do one of 2 things when I graduated, either go into film or, go into advertising, and I knew advertising because my grandfather had owned an advertising agency in the 1930s. So, uh, got a job in advertising, thought it was fantastic, thought I wasn't learning anything, applied to film school, screwed up my applications, got a job in New York, married a girl from Buffalo, never looked back. Now, one of the things that I had been told almost my first day in advertising was, "It's a young person's business. Get your name on the door by 40 or get out."
Wow.
So, by 38, I was the CEO of, an agency called Renegade Marketing Group, which I founded initially with Dentsu. And so I had that ambition. I wasn't really necessarily prepared to be a CEO, but I knew I wanted to do it. Uh, so I'm going to fast forward to I'd always wanted to do in the reason we're called Renegade was that we came in to get some Panasonic business. We wanted to be the anti-gray. I never wanted to actually do traditional advertising. I just wanted to do something that was always different, something renegade. So that made sense. Fast forward 20 2007, something like that, 8, 2 things happened. One, a friend of mine, Pete Kranick, who was a client of ours, both at DoubleClick and Avaya, said, "Hey, I'm thinking about founding this club called the CMO Club. Can you help?" I said, "Sure, Pete." We designed the logo, and the first website. And then also, in order to ingratiate myself to the members of the community, because I was running an agency at the time, I said, "You know what? I'll write about you." And I started writing. First, initially, it was fastcompany.com, and then it was media posts and all these things. And I committed to writing 52 articles a year. And if you do that, you realize suddenly you got to interview people.
One a week, yeah. You gotta get to work.
And that's when I started interviewing CMOs, and that led to any number of happy accidents and forks and things. And then when Pete sold the CMO Club on March 2nd, 2020, right before the pandemic, opportunity just I went, okay, Salesforce is going to screw it up. B2B was never a priority for the club. Let's create a community. And I got 20 people together on April 1st and said, let's huddle.
Wow. Okay.
And we met 55 times in 6 months. And the business was born.
Yeah, that's my favorite kind of business birthing. That sounds weird, but just it's that organic, just based on the need of people just getting together and saying this is a problem, and you found the solution.
Yeah, I mean, I can't say I found the solution. I think it is part of the solution. And
Sure.
we started virtual because that's the way it is, and it's still a really important component. But as we move forward, getting folks together is important too.
Yeah, it really is. Well, bring it up to present day. Let's talk about because this is not the show's not yet sponsored by CMO Huddles. But, I mean, we are so much better when we're connected. So take a couple minutes, tell who are the right kind of CMOs that should look into this. It's a paid community, which separates the pros from the amateurs, ladies and gentlemen. So this In so many people, we swapped lists of LinkedIn connections we have, and half the known universe all knows both of us, and we didn't know each other until recently. So I'm excited about that. But so many people have spoken highly of this that it's worth talking about. So what's the deal? Who should sign up, and where do they go?
So it's kind of simple. I'm going to ask you one question, which is name two challenges that you would like to go one-on-one with another CMO. If you can't instantly, as a CMO, come up with two challenges that you'd want to talk with, then you're wrong for our group because you are incurious or you've solved every problem there is. God bless you. You are on your own and you're happy about it. The rest of us can name 10 and want to talk to about it. And you know what? If you think about health clubs and what health clubs hope is that you sign up and you don't come.
True. They don't want you to come. And you know what? They offered pizza the other day, and I thought, well, I'm certainly not going to come to the gym the day they're offering pizza.
Yeah, that's a little,
It's brilliant.
that's funny. So yeah, we're not about just, take your membership and brag about it. No, we're looking for folks that are curious I think of myself as a perpetual student, and that it's like this is not something that you suddenly have down. This is something that requires constant experimentation and learning, and the only fast way to do it is to hear what everybody else is doing and think, okay, let me take that and put it in the context of my challenges. And so yeah, you have to be curious, and if you're curious and adaptable, you're a penguin.
You're a penguin. And we'll have links in the show notes for people to follow through, that kind of thing. To do you trial it? What's the process look like to be a part of this thing?
We have a 1-month guest pass.
Oh, yeah, no brainer.
Yeah, easy, right?
No brainer. Um, that's beautiful. One final question to wrap your life up with a bow, if we could. Now it's a bit of a hypothetical. So, are you down for a little hypothesis?
I'm ready, but I have my stress penguin ready just in
Yeah,
case.
start squeezing it. Okay. Well, you see, I may or may not have a time machine up here in New Hampshire. So let's say, the snow clears and you come on up and we get a beer and we go hang out it's in the backyard, let's be honest. And it's covered in tarp, but we hang out and we use the time machine. But it's a particular kind of time machine where you get to go back in time and meet yourself 4 days after that history degree graduation, right? You just got out of school, you got that shiny new degree, and you get to meet yourself back then. What do you say to that guy? What do you say to freshly graduated Drew?
So three things. So one, impact, understanding what impact means. And Liz Weissman's book, Impact Players, is probably the most profound book that I've read that would have mattered. I keep saying to myself, God, I wish I could have read this when I was 23. So I would understand the difference between making big things happen and getting credit for them. If you can focus on just how do I make big things happen, even at whatever level I am at, you're going to make big things happen. So that's part one. Part two is I wish I started writing earlier, because writing leads to understanding. And when I finally committed, as I said earlier, to writing an article a week, good things just started to happen. Because if by writing, it forced me to ask questions, and then I had to find people who could find the answers, and I could string them together. And so it just writing forces you to be curious and solve problems. And I do think, and by the way, my editorials that I write on Saturdays on LinkedIn, 100% human. I don't use generative AI for purposely. I use it everywhere else, but I don't use it for that. The third thing is I wish I had discovered Ben Franklin and his expression, well done is better than well said, before 2008 when I finally did discover it. Actually, it's 2005. I've been obsessed with him, but he was one of the guys who really, truly understood that he could make big things happen without taking credit. He gets credit now, but 20 of the things that he's famous for having done, with exception of discovering lightning and electricity, he didn't get credit for at the time. He's brilliant about it. He didn't want to because he knew that people would get jealous. So well done is better than well said, says the writer Drew Neisser.
Better than well said. Man, that's powerful. Where can people connect with you about the community, about some of the things you've said today? They just also love penguins and want to hang out and make up their own huddle.
Exactly. So, easy to find on LinkedIn, Drew Neisser, Neisser. And if you're interested in CMO Huddles, just go to cmohuddles.com. And we got all sorts of things, including a wall of love with like 50 testimonials from our community.
Dang, dang. And try it out for a month. No harm in that. Damn.
Love it. Bring it.
I gotta imagine that conversion rate's pretty damn high on something like that and something like this. Uh, Man, thank you so much, Drew. This has been fantastic. I kind of had the feeling it would be from some of our calls prior to, like, man, this guy's. I could already book you for 2 more episodes worth of content. I know we just cracked a little bit into renegade marketing, so folks, definitely check that book out. Definitely hit Drew up for any of those worksheets or those different lists that he was mentioning from the book. I'm certainly going to read that book. And man, this is so good. So thank you. Thank you. I almost lost. There's just so many things to be thankful for.
Thank you for what you're doing. I know how hard it is to keep a podcast going, and you put a lot of work into it. And I don't think people realize how much preparation goes in to your interviews. So thank you for what you do.
Man, I appreciate that. It is, but it's like the kind of work you love, right? Back to some of our earlier conversations. For those listening, if you love this or you learned something from this, and I freaking know you did, because I literally have 2 pages of notes over here, front and back, and I even ran out of space and I was in margins and writing in 2 columns worth on a single piece of paper. Well, if you learned like I did, then share this episode with one person. That's thought leadership. It doesn't need to be 9,000, but that's cool if you want to do 9,000 as well. But really, it's like, who needs to hear this? Do you have a friend who's a CMO? Do you work for a CMO that has those challenges that need answers? Whatever the case may be, get this information, share this episode with them so they can connect with Drew and find some solutions so they can huddle up in that cold marketing Antarctic winter and find that success. So, man, share this with someone else. Drew, thank you so much for coming on here.
Thank you.
All right, everyone. This has been a crazy cool episode of the Hardcore Marketing Show. We will see you all next time.